business. So this is the perfect moment for anyone to make it happen. But it is extremely important to also understand the historical context of this. So if you look at what is digital transformation, digital transformation is about when a product enters the market or a service and disrupts and kills the current market the way it is. And this is what we saw when the CD was introduced. How many people here have used a CD the last 5 years? No one. The CDs are gone. Oh, we have one here. Okay. And if you look at what happened when the world changed from horses to cars, the whole economy changed from everyone having invested in horseshoes, in hay, and all the economy related to the leather that was required for the horses. So, of course, people that had invested in that, they really wanted to keep on doing with the horse things. And they tried to prevent the introductions of the cars just because their investments were at the current technology. And that is exactly what we are seeing right now. If you look at what really created this opportunity for technology, in 1958 we had 2 transistors. Today, a transistor is delivered with 19 billion transistors. I don't know what it costed back in 1958, but it was a lot. And now, the sum is basically 19 billion divided by $149. So the cost is going down to 0 for transistors. And this is 80 times faster, 4.2 million times cheaper, and 330 billion times improvement over the last 45 years. We don't think about this on a normal day-to-day basis. The reason we don't think about it is that we are so trapped inside our mobile phones and the new iPhone or the new Samsung that we don't have time to think about what created this enablement of technologies coming together, and all of a sudden all of you guys are part of what you are building for the future, which is the global mind. Never before in the history of mankind have so many people had the opportunity to participate in the evolution, having access to all the knowledge, everyone with the same access to Google and all the information that is part of the current global mind. But it's this that is increasing and actually steepening the curve of the digital transformation. It is the confluence of technologies between different industry verticals, but it is also the cross-pollination of knowledge from different sectors, from communication, from engineering to computers. Everything is changing. And if you look at the device here from IBM back in 1956, this baby that they are trying to load onto this airplane could take 1 photo on a current iPhone today. Think about it. And now you can put 100 million photos or 16,000 movies onto a small SSD hard disk. And we don't think about this from a day-to-day perspective. So the point I'm trying to make here is that the industry, as long as the evolution was linear, it was not a problem. It was exactly perfect to just apply everything incrementally. You can do a little bit of change here, a little software upgrade there, and we were perfectly fine. But in 2007 and 2008, Apple forced AT&T to change the whole model in how the technology is used. They said, we are going to dictate what services we want the customers to use. And that opened up the whole box of opportunities. And that was only 12 years ago. And since then, people have had the opportunity to almost have an abundance of bandwidth available. Like we can sit here and be connected looking at a video on a chair. You couldn't do that 12 years ago. The computational power is available to anyone. NVIDIA Cloud, Google Cloud, Amazon Cloud, or Microsoft. This is providing everyone with cheap computational power. The memory to compute all of this is available to anyone at a fragment at the cost that was only for the few doing R&D in very well-funded organizations 10 years ago. And all of a sudden we have global connectivity connecting the smartest people from all around the world, like Cesar just now participating from Houston. And we can have access to the best brains in the field from all around the globe in the same room. And what I'm trying to point out here is that if you are having a linear approach, an incremental approach to how you apply technology, you will be lost in the past. So the distance between what is technologically possible today, up here, and where most companies are, has never been bigger. And that creates an area of opportunity for everyone that wants to participate in growing the future. But that means we also have to learn to forget the past. We have to get away from the legacy, because the legacy that we built for what currently exists does not fit for the future world of the hyper-connected society, where everything works at hyperspeed, where you can interrogate data at the hyperspeed, and they thrive the more data that you throw on the computers and using machine learning or other technologies. They thrive the more data, and actually it's the opposite of humans that goes into block mode the more data that you throw at them. So the opportunity is fantastic. But there are also dark sides. So of course ethics and artificial intelligence is becoming increasingly important, because who is going to decide what is right and wrong? So of course, when I'm talking about the technological evolution, I'm saying that there's a pattern change that happened in 2007 that is quite unique. And we are living through that pattern change now. That is a ripple in the fabric of the world. The way that work is done is changing. The way money is made is changing. The way we live our lives is changing. And it's fundamentally changing what it means to be human in many aspects. So it's extremely important to have that historical perspective and not only think about these things as, no, this is just a technology component. For instance, when we think about security or privacy, 10 years ago, if someone told me, I will give you this device, and this device will track everything that you do. It will even predict when you will arrive at a certain point and tell you how the traffic will be. And it will tell you what you want based upon your patterns, what you have shopped before. You would never have accepted such a device 10 years ago. But because this comes, I would say, dressed very nicely and appealing to us and makes it convenient, we also forget the dark sides of technology, that all of a sudden we are giving away the privacy and the right to privacy. And that is one of the dark sides about the technology evolution, that these things requires a mindfulness in how we apply them and what we are willing to accept, how these things invade our lives. So, about digital transformation status, like it was said in the previous presentation here, the oil and gas industry is applying technology right now. But last year, according to Harvard Business Review, $1.3 trillion was spent on digital transformation journey. $900 billion of that went to waste. 80% of all digital projects go to waste today because we are trying to build something on top of the current legacy architecture that was never intended to be like that. It was never intended to be hyper-connected, where you could integrate between the different functions. It was supposed to be finance for themselves, HR for themselves, exploration for themselves. All of a sudden now, the most successful businesses are the ones that are able to harvest data and create business opportunity and revenue streams from the insight that they get from interrogating those data. So the projects that we see are not gaining any traction. They are not generating the expected ROI. They are not on schedule. They are not changing safety. They are not changing behavior. And the solutions are being applied in silo. And that is the main reason why 80% of the projects fail. And that is basically because we are chasing the most technologically sexy object. We are not looking at the things that need to change underneath in the foundation of the business. How you can harvest data from the data silos. So if you look at this slide here, this is basically showing how we implement digital. And where cars are today aiming is autonomous. But the current level is that we are doing monitoring and we are doing some diagnostics. And we are moving ourselves up the ladder towards analytics and maybe some predictive analytics. And artificial intelligence is not yet there. In some areas, for special things, it is there. And that is why I think this is so important, because this is a great opportunity. This is the perfect opportunity in time. So if I say, why should I believe this and what should I do? The digital beliefs, if you say, what do you believe about the future? If you look 5 years ahead, or even 7 years ahead, 2025, 2026, do you believe that there will be an increased speed of change? Do you believe that there is an efficiency potential? Do you believe that data will become a strategic asset for running a business? If you believe those, then the way that you run your business today, or the way you will plan to do your business, is obsolete. So you need to put the money and the investments where your mouth is. And that is basically building the future architecture that is built for the hyper-connected world. And you guys that are studying now are at the perfect spot to do these things right now. Because there's a very limited amount of the population on this planet. The 7 billion people, not everyone have access. And not everyone understands how the hyper-connected world works. And that creates the opportunity. So the essential question that is facing every leader in every company is that, are you going to continue doing incremental steps and hoping for transformational value from that? Or are you going to go a little bit more bold and going towards a little bit more radical approach to how you evolve your business? Or maybe you want to do like Elon Musk, that disrupted the entire car industry in 5 years. This is how digital projects mostly end up today. They are not fit for the architecture. It is just a huge engine, but it's not connected to the overall thinking of what you're going to accomplish. So, in order to be successful, there are 5 factors that are key to a successful digital journey. And digital transformation has nothing to do with a project. It is not a project. It is the start of a journey of how to transform from riding horses to driving autonomous cars. That is the essence of what we are up against when we are transforming our business today. So this is about infrastructure. So you need to have a platform. So if you think in the future, what you need to have in place in your business is the ability to harvest all the data across your enterprise. Today we are focused on security, of course for integrity reasons, for privacy reasons, etc. So we say that our governance models to protect data is more important than the analytics. So what we are doing, or have to do, we have to democratize the access to the data to make data open unless explicitly closed, and not like it is today where all the data is closed unless explicitly open. And that is a completely different ballgame. Efficiency, that is another part that you really need to aim your focus in on what creates the biggest value. If you're ever going to do big data analytics, if you're ever going to interrogate your data, you really need to clean up your act. You need to focus on the structure of your data. And you need to have mature services in order to be able to do that. And you need to create an ecosystem of services that can be easily changed. So there's a strong need to rethink the entire business architecture and move towards a more integrated data platform. And in order to see what can be done today, I put up some examples here of what to keep in mind, where you have a digital radar, basically showing here what is mature technology and what is coming in the future. So when you try to start up a business or when you try to implement something, don't start with something that is not going to happen until 4 years. I'm not going to go into the details of the next one there. So the typical learnings and and pitfalls is that most corporations think that digital transformation is about technology, which is not. It's about the people. It's to change the mindset of the people that uses technology. Another pitfall is related to implementation of technology that seems most interesting, because we have some people in the business that wants to do something. And that you resource your project only with internal resources. You need to look on the outside. Look towards the academia and try to get people in that have new thoughts about how do we utilize social media in order to attract customers. How do we actually integrate this so that we can get better market intelligence on things that we do? And how do we ensure culture change and culture assimilation across your business towards the new way of working? The CEO of Google in China, he was out in the media a couple of weeks ago saying that in 10 years, 50% of all jobs today will disappear in 10 years. So what are the key success factors? Choose your battles. Choose the interesting things that really creates a good outcome for the business. Follow the money rather than technological fascination. Invest in the talents, and also in the talents that you have in the business today to get them up to speed. You need to foster a culture of innovation, and you need to rethink data management. So in summary, legacy, culture, politics, and competency are the biggest barriers to change in a business today. Oil and gas, where I come from, I spent more than 20 years in oil and gas, they are light years behind the financial industry in the utilization of data. And they apply technology only in the silos. Repetitive manual tasks, they will be replaced by machines very soon. You can see it in some of the cities. You can see now that even inside where you go and do your shopping, you do it yourself. And then you check out without any human being involved in the process. And the new hyper-connected world really demands a different business model. So for business leaders, and of course, that's the reason why I have Yoda here, and that is all business leaders need to unlearn what you have learned. Because if you are trapped in the past, in the way that the world and the horses worked, you are not able to actually do the things that is required for the hyper-connected world. So it's needed for us to rethink and reframe our thinking, how businesses work. And with that, may the force be with you. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Efferson, for this. Thank you, Mr. Efferson, for this wonderful conference. And there's one question, and it says the following. How do you deal with legacy systems? They cost money. You are not supposed to put them aside.
Could you repeat the question, please?
How do you deal with legacy systems? They cost money. You are not supposed to put them aside.
So if I understand the question correct, it's like, how do you allocate enough resources and money to be able to invest in the future? And this is the primary problems in some of the companies. And I think that this is, I don't recall the author, but it's called the three-box solution, where you think about the future in three boxes. You have box number one, that is the past. What Yoda is basically saying here, that you need to unlearn what you learned. And you need to put things in boxes and say the past is the past, and let's try to forget that. That was the way the world worked before 2007. And then you have the medium box that is about like improving what you have. But don't spend money unwisely on things that will not be part of your ecosystem for the future. And the third box is about, while you are stopping projects for box number one, you have to use those money. Those are not to be saved. They are to being used for R&D in box number three, that is creating the future. So innovation takes different shapes and forms in the future. So this is what I think is the most essential. If you don't invest enough in the future, you will never get there, and you will be left behind. And since the evolution of technology is now going exponential, it's getting harder and harder to get up to speed in any business. Okay.
Thank you so much. Any other question?
To live more and more.
Yes.
Okay, the question is if the technology evolution will allow us to live more and more years. Oh, that's a tough one. And now I'm normally when I'm getting into deep water where I don't have any particular knowledge, I shut up. But let me think about it this way. What will we do in the future? If you think about the technology that we are applying now, if the CEO of Google in China is right, and 50% of the current jobs are disappearing, what are we going to do? And that is why some countries are looking into new models on how you can get a citizen salary, for instance, that gives the potential for other areas to grow, like where humans can play a role, like the creative part human and emotion connections. Those are important parts. But when you look at like life expectancy, of course, when you have technology that can detect skin cancer early stage, because you can do image recognition and it can basically detect it, because one doctor maybe see 1 or 2 cases a year, a machine can have millions. It's like if you have a pacemaker, if you have one connected device, it doesn't tell you anything. But if you have 10 million connected pacemakers, they will be able to give you predictions of when things go wrong. So that will help us in that direction. But you are also seeing that people, when they retire, they tend to die very fast. Because what is the purpose if you don't have a purpose? So you see, there are many forces here, and I don't claim to have any knowledge in the area of how this will impact our lives. But it is important for us to have these things into consideration when we are letting AI decide our future. Okay?
I think we've finished now. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Everson.
Thank you very much.
Agradecemos nuevamente la ponencia de Trond Ellefsen y de igual manera se hace la entrega del certificado, para lo cual invitamos al magíster Stalin Arcitiegas para la entrega del mismo.
Aha, okay. Thank you very much.
Por favor, un fuerte aplauso.
So.
Con esta ponencia terminamos la primera parte de esta jornada y les invitamos a cada uno de ustedes a tomar un receso de 20 minutos. Luego de ello continuamos con la ponencia de Rosalía Romero. Gracias.